everybody, with Joey Galloway and Greg McElroy. I'm Wendy Nix, and you know what? The transfer portal is in full effect. If you like new faces in some new places, or soon to be anyway, you're in the right place. That's where we start this afternoon, and we start with a big-name quarterback. Former Oklahoma QB Spencer Rattler says via Twitter he's headed to South Carolina next season. He was this year's preseason favorite to win the Heisman before losing the starting job to Caleb Williams. He'll be reuniting with Shane Beamer, who was an assistant at Oklahoma from 2018 to 2020. Joey, I mean, the coach makes sense, but other than that, I got to tell you, this one caught me by surprise. What do you make of Rattler's decision for South Carolina in particular?
I think for Rattler, you're looking for a place that you can go play right away. And I think that's what most of these guys are looking to do. So why not South Carolina, a team that obviously had to bring in Zeb Nolan off of retirement, off the bench. He was coaching, had to go out and play for his team, and they ended up, I think, winning 6 games. And so if you're looking for a place that you can go play right away, why not South Carolina? Now, we'll see what Rattler's going to do with the situation. It didn't turn out great for him last year at Oklahoma, but this is a fresh start, so we'll see how it works out.
This is really more about South Carolina than it is about Spencer Rattler, Joey. I mean, this is a team that really overachieved in Shane Beamer's first year. Getting to a bowl game was massive. No one expected that to happen in what was an improved SEC East. Now, because of the quarterback choosing South Carolina, will there be additional grad transfers that will consider the Gamecocks as well? I happen to think that there will be. Maybe a wide receiver that wants to go play with one of the best quarterbacks in college football. Now, Spencer Rattler, the big thing for him, he's got to get back to looking like the player he was in 2020, not the player he was in 2021. Too often was he concerned with trying to make a mistake, and too often was he consumed with trying to be perfect. He's just go let it rip. And he can do so now in the SEC with an offensive-minded head coach in Shane Beamer and a fresh start at South Carolina.
Well, Greg, he's not alone, of course. There's a number of other quarterbacks who will be making the move via the transfer portal. It seems like these decisions coming a little earlier this year. Bo Nix set to move on after 3 years at Auburn. Nix had an up-and-down time as a Tiger. Will finish with a 21-13 record. He will be a grad transfer as well. Kedon Slovis plans to leave California. The former USC quarterback entered 2021 also as a Heisman candidate, but had career lows in QBR and completion percentage this season. And then there's Zach Calzada. He has also decided to enter the transfer portal. Calzada had a middling 2021 season in 10 starts, but it was certainly highlighted by Texas A&M's upset of then #1 Alabama. And former Ohio State quarterback Quinn Ewers said via Twitter he's made a decision. Ewers announced he will be a Longhorn heading back to his home state of Texas. Listen, guys, Greg, that's a lot of names and a lot of movement. Which of these guys are you most looking forward to in terms of getting a fresh start and seeing what they can make of it?
Well, I think there's a lot of fantastic names, but I think when you look at these programs and really the players, you have to put these quarterbacks in 2 different baskets, Wendy. You have to put them in the 1-year rental basket, where they're essentially going to go play somewhere for 1 year. I think Spencer Rattler fits that bill. Kedon Slovis fits that bill. Those guys are 1-year rentals before you pass off the keys of the car to a younger, maybe very talented high school player. Or you can look at the guys that have 3 or 4 years of eligibility left. There's several of those as well that might go somewhere and be the starting quarterback for an extended period of time and kind of help revitalize a program. So I think you have to divide the quarterbacks up into 2 different baskets and try to assess for your program, what is it that you're looking for? Are you looking for long-term leadership, or are you looking for a guy that can bridge the gap to maybe a very talented young player? And I think those are the decisions that these coaches are trying to weigh right now, because if you bring in a guy with a lot of eligibility and it doesn't work out, then not only will you disrupt the rhythm of the room, but you could obviously chase away potential players in the future that might consider you out of high school.
In today's world, Greg, it's hard to think of any of these coaches thinking long-term or down the road kind of thing, especially with the portal, which I think there's roughly 800 kids in the portal right now, and that number is growing. So it's tough because these coaches only have a couple years before people start putting them on the hot seat, before they start getting called for their jobs for not winning football games. So I think the idea of college football was changing right before our eyes. The idea that you're talking about, where are you looking long-term and down the road, has sort of gone away. These quarterbacks now, they're leaving after 1 year. Quinn Ewers didn't even suit up for Ohio State. I don't know if he was here long enough to get his books. And so a kid like this comes in, highly recruited, leaves high school early to chase the NIL money, sees C.J. Stroud take over a program, go to New York for the Heisman Trophy. So then Quinn Ewers is saying, what am I going to do? Sit here and wait behind him and develop? No, of course not. These guys are jumping in the portal, taking off. And so it's going to be interesting to see how this works out. I think everybody is thinking, can I get a quarterback that helps me win right now, this year, and I'll deal with whatever happens after that?
It is a what have you done for me lately kind of game more than ever. I think you're right, whether it be NIL or the transfer portal, Joey, the landscape is changing. That's true for coaches as well. Of course, they don't go through the transfer portal, but we see a lot of shifting, and we've now seen Oregon make a move. They've hired former Georgia defensive coordinator Dan Lanning, introduced as the new head coach on Monday. He's 35. And he led the Dogs defense to a historic 2021 season. He will stay with the team, by the way, to coach their college football playoff run. Now, it's a bit unfair to compare anybody to that Georgia defense this year, but let's just say Oregon was slightly worse defensively than the number 3 team in the nation. Ducks fans hoping that Dan Lanning will build their defense into one of the top units in the country. Joey, what do you make of this move by Oregon?
I like the move by Oregon, but this is the way coaching goes now. If you get hot in a season the way the Georgia football team and especially their defense did, then of course a school like Oregon is going to come and try to pick apart whatever coaching staff that is. Now, it'll be interesting to see. We've always known Oregon to be an offensive football team, an explosive football team under a coach like Chip Kelly, where they created so many opportunities, getting guys out in space, creating those big plays. And we saw them this season when they traveled to Ohio State. With an offense that absolutely made the Ohio State defense look like they were lost. We're used to seeing a high-flying offense out of Oregon. Now hiring a defensive coach, it's going to be interesting to see what this program looks like in the next couple years.
Yeah, and I think that this is just a sign of the times. I mean, the game is getting younger. Both Marcus Freeman and Dan Lanning, when it was trending in a direction, at least the coaching carousel was trending in a direction where you want to get young, you want to get offense. Well, these are two guys that are now coaching at premier institutions at Notre Dame for Marcus Freeman and now at Oregon for Dan Lanning that are coming from the defensive side of the football, and then they're going to go out and essentially hire a head coach for the offense. I love the move. Now, what I don't love is the proximity that Dan Lanning's going to have to deal with over the course of the next few weeks as he prepares to get Georgia ready to play in a semifinal game against Michigan. They played poorly on defense. Some have speculated as to the performance because Dan Lanning was chasing the Oklahoma job and the Oregon job. And their offensive plan and their defensive plan, it struggled as a result of maybe some of the focus and the distractions elsewhere. So how will he be able to compartmentalize what he needs to do at Oregon from 3,000 miles away in Athens, Georgia? That's going to be a fascinating journey because it's not like this Kirby Smart had where he's going from Tuscaloosa to Athens. That's a 25-minute plane flight. Going from Eugene to Athens, that's a 5.5-hour trip. So it'll be fascinating to see how he handles it. But if anyone can do it, it's Dan Lanning.
Well, and you're right. You only have so much bandwidth, Joey. But how does this affect Georgia in what is a very, very important couple of games? They hope a couple of games coming up.
I can't imagine how it couldn't affect them. Now, to what extent it affects them, I don't know. So you're talking about a head coach or assistant coach, defensive coach that had the best defense in the country. In their last game, they didn't look very good. And of course, Greg is going to be talk about he's focused on other things. And now his livelihood is attached to Oregon. Not attached to what happens in the playoff in this next game for Georgia, but what happens at Oregon. And that has to take the precedent for him to be most important is how does he establish himself at Oregon through recruiting and what they establish there for the next few years. That's going to be his coaching life. This thing that's happening at Georgia for him, I don't want to make it sound like it's not important because it is very important. But when you put it on the scale next to what's going to happen in the next 4 or 5 years at Oregon, that's definitely more important. So we'll see if he can balance that, get this defense right, because they didn't look good in their last game, and get them back to playing the kind of Georgia defense that we saw all season long.
Well, look, he's human. There's only so many hours in the day, but again, a lot of incentive for both situations. Let's take a look now at our Capital One Bowl Mania preview. Hard to believe it's bowl season. The Alamo Bowl featuring Oregon, speaking of which, and Oklahoma. Both, of course, sport high-power offenses and an identical turnover margin. This game, by the way, December 29th, 4 days after Christmas at 9:15 Eastern on ESPN. Still to come on College Football Live, Todd McShay. Go figure. It's draft season. His first mock draft out today. We'll talk about number one and the first quarterback to go.
College Football Live is brought to you by Allstate. Save money like a champion with Allstate.
Welcome to Allstate, where we've just lowered our auto rates. And savings like that follow you everywhere. Now get new lower auto rates with Allstate. Because better protection costs a whole lot less. You're in good hands with Allstate. Click or call for a lower auto rate today.
You want fries with that?
Introducing Wendy's new hot and crispy fries. Preferred almost 2-to-1 over McDonald's. Try them today, only at Wendy's.
So at AT&T, everyone gets our best deals.
Aren't others doing that?
Others say that, but not everyone gets the best deal. Like, what if I give you a lollipop? Then I give you our best lollipop.
That's not fair.
At AT&T, we think it's only fair that all customers get our best deals. And you get a choice of plans.
She said everyone.
It's not complicated. Only AT&T gives both new and existing customers our same best deals, like up to $1,000 off our most popular smartphones.
Flora Gorgeous Gardenia, the new eau de parfum.
At Macy's, the fragrance destination.
The Total Support Pouch from Hanes can help you achieve balance. Vista mesh panels for perfect separation and support. Secure, separated, supported. Find your balance. Vista Total Support Pouch from Hanes.
Get away with our best deals of the season at the Hyundai Getaway Sales Event. With new cars arriving daily, it's the perfect time to get a Hyundai. Get 0% APR financing plus 0 payments for 90 days on select vehicles. Now, during the Hyundai Getaway Sales Event.
Incredible NFL theater. 600 touchdown passes for Tom Brady. Could go it's a blast. Halfway through the NFL's biggest season ever. Stay tuned.
What can you expect from ButcherBox? 100% grass-fed beef, organic free-range chicken, humanely raised pork, and so much more. All with free shipping right to your door. Get free bacon for life plus $100 off your membership.
What do you think? I think you're going to talk to American Financing. Peyton Manning?
You're going to save $1,000 a month.
It's enough to send 4 kids to college.
We're having 4 kids?
Oh yeah, all at the same time.
Start planning for your future today with American Financing.
Show the world what it means to be a fan at Fanatics.com. The largest assortment of officially licensed college fan gear from more than 500 colleges. Shop now and get today's special offer. Fanatics.com. Officially licensed everything.
Look at us. We are idea machines. We don't sit back and watch. We stand up and do. So from now on, Pebbles is all about us and our amazing creations. So what are you gonna yabba dabba do next? You can show us at createwithpebbles.com.
Todd McShay has updated his 2022 mock draft, and there's a slight surprise at number 1. Aiden Hutchinson now leads the way. Hutchinson has had a tremendous season, helping Michigan to their first ever CFB playoff. ESPN senior writer Todd McShay has his first mock draft of the season out right now. You can see that on ESPN.com. But Todd joins us now. And Todd, let's talk about those two defensive ends at the top of the board, 1-2. What gives Hutchinson the slight edge over Kayvon Thibodeau?
You know, Hutchinson, he may not have the elite of elite type physical tools that Thibodeau does at Oregon, but Hutchinson pulls it all together. And by that I mean he has really good quickness, power. He has surprisingly good closing speed as a pass rusher. And when I say tie it all together, he knows how to use those skills, from his preparation to his execution of the plan. He's great with his hands. He can rush from the outside. He can rush outside to in. He can use power. And he just is a relentless player who just won't be stopped when the team needs him most. You saw that against Ohio State. You saw that in the Big Ten Championship. And really throughout the year when he's had 19 tackles for loss, 14 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles. Now, Thibodeau, on the other hand, he has those elite skills. And I say that because Hutchinson, very good in terms of his physical tools, but Thibodeau might be the best all-around athlete in the entire class. His production was a little bit up and down, and he didn't show up in big games. The 2 Utah games, when they lost in ugly finishes, he kind of got silenced in those 2 games. He had 1 sack and 1 tackle for loss combined in 2 outings when his team needed him the most. But again, he can rush with speed and power. He's disruptive versus the run, and he's got a chance to be one of the elite pass rushers in the NFL if he buys in and becomes more dedicated and more determined in terms of being one of those elite players and showing up every single Sunday.
Certainly made a big difference for Michigan. Ty, we can't talk about the draft, you know this, without talking about quarterbacks, certainly not early on. Which QB has impressed you the most so far?
You know, I have 5 quarterbacks going in the first round, all after the first 11 picks. But Kenny Pickett, to me, is the most NFL ready. You know, and by that I mean, coming out of Pittsburgh, he took his extra year and took great advantage of it. You could tell he was in complete control of this offense, finally returning to a system that he knew and getting his receivers all on the same page. He is excellent. It reminds me a lot of Mac Jones a year ago at Alabama. Excellent in terms of pocket awareness. He knows where the rush is coming from and how to maneuver inside the pocket to extend plays. He also is a fast processor, meaning he can go through his progression reads quickly and finds open targets. And finally, he's a very accurate passer. He doesn't have the biggest arm. He's not the most mobile. He might be the least mobile of these 5 quarterbacks in the first round. But when it comes to NFL quarterbacking and what you need to do, we've seen from Mac Jones all season long, he's ready to step in and become a starter right away, I believe.
We certainly have seen it. And the one thing that changes every year is the different positions, the depth at different positions. Every year is a different story. What's the deepest position in 2022?
Yeah, Wendy, I'm so impressed. The more tape I watch of all these guys with the edge defenders, if you will. That's defensive ends and maybe some outside linebackers that can play that 3-4 outside linebacker spot in the NFL. You know, we already talked about Hutchinson going 1 to Detroit, Thibodeau from Oregon going number 2 to Houston. But beyond that, I have 6 in total in the first round of edge guys. David Ojabo, Hutchinson's teammate at Michigan, I had him going 10 overall to the Eagles in this mock draft. He is the best pure speed rusher. He is the quickest takeoff of any of these guys off the edge. DeMarvin Leal from Texas A&M, I had him going right after that 11 to the Raiders. He is 290 pounds, can rush from the inside and from the outside. After that, Trayvon Walker, the defensive end from Georgia, who, you know, he's playing with Nakobe Dean and Jordan Davis, the defensive tackle, and all these other big name defenders on that great Georgia defense. But Walker's 270 pounds plus. He's going to blow up the combine. He's going to be a first-round pick, and I think he's going to be a better pro than he was college player. And finally, Cam Thomas, that doesn't get a lot of recognition coming out of San Diego State. I had him going 32 to the Buccaneers. Thomas is another big, long defensive player who, in that 3-3-5 at San Diego State, he played the 0 technique, meaning nose tackle, 3 technique as a defensive tackle. He played up against the offensive tackle, and then as a wide 7, meaning that edge rusher, and he did great in all of those roles. So he brings a lot of versatility to the next level.
Position versatility. If Bill Belichick ever taught me one thing, that was it. Todd, I'm not going to lie, it's going to be ready for draft season. And so, too, will your draft special. Todd McShay will have a draft special coming up at 5 o'clock Eastern right here on ESPN2. Todd, we look forward to it. In the meantime, check out his list on ESPN.com. Still to come on College Football Live, it was Bryce Young who took home the hardware, the Heisman winner over the weekend. What are the chances he repeats next season? We'll take a look at that coming up.
When I was going through the hardest thing I've ever been through, my mom gave me this ring, and it made me feel powerful, protected. When my sister was going through something really difficult, I knew that I had to give it to her.
It signifies that I'm never alone.
Yeah.
We pass on this ring because we know we're always there for each other.
I love this ring so much. It's our sisterhood.
Celebrate your extraordinary love story. Save 20%. Jared, love brilliantly.
With 26 flavors, got a sauce for every squad. Don't drip on the drip. It's the greatest of all times. Buffalo Wild Wings.
Tuna fish, Steve? We got a big second half of thermodynamics to teach, whatever that is. Now let's fuel up with some chunky soup. Let's go! Fill up with 19 grams of protein per can and chunky chicken noodle. Lunchtime is your halftime.
Didn't know what time it was, the lights were low, oh, oh. I leaned back on my radio, oh, oh. There's a starman waiting.
It's right in front of you. Bleu de Chanel, le parfum. At Macy's, the fragrance destination.
Season finale of Fansville by Dr. Pepper.
Another season almost in the books.
Yep, it's gonna be a long off season.
Off season?
What do we do in the off season?
Off season?
Relax. We don't stop existing when the season ends.
Yeah, it's not like we live in some fictional town that's part of some elaborate marketing campaign.
What would it even be for? Dr. Pepper?
We're real people. It's not like we're the ice cold Dr. Pepper guy.
Dr. Pepper, the one fans deserve.
The total support pouch from Hanes can help you achieve balance. Vista mesh panels for perfect separation and support. Secure, separated, supported. Find your balance. Vista Total Support Pouch from Hanes.
Watching Monday Night Football with Peyton and Eli on ESPN2.
Helmet doesn't fit. Shocking that a helmet doesn't fit you. Tom's got to go to bed here soon. What's your curfew, Tom? We're past it.
You can stream more of them on ESPN Plus with Peyton's Places.
That's not for drinking. Delightful.
Eli's Places.
You're going to take it easy on me, aren't you?
Roll Tide, baby.
No.
And Detail.
He's obviously very aware of who's blocked and who's unblocked.
Sign up now at ESPNplus.com.
We've got a Western Conference NBA Wednesday doubleheader this week. LeBron and the Lakers against the Mavs at 7:30 Eastern. After that, Donovan Mitchell and the Jazz play host to the Clippers. Our coverage starts with NBA Countdown at 7 Eastern. Bryce Young, as we mentioned before, took home the 2021 Heisman over the weekend. He beat out Aiden Hutchinson, C.J. Stroud, and Kenny Pickett. He's a sophomore and the first Alabama quarterback to win the award. He will have a chance to repeat next year since he's not eligible for the 2022 NFL Draft. And he's not alone in star power returning. He's the take a look at this. The first Alabama quarterback to win it. He'll come back. As I mentioned, he's not the only one. C.J. Stroud and Will Anderson both head back to college next season as well. Joey, I'm not asking for a prediction because obviously you jumped through that screen. I get that. It's way too early for that. I will ask you this. Who's in the best position, perhaps, when you look at the Heisman race for next season?
I mean, we're talking about Dan Lanning being able to focus on the playoff and head coaching at Oregon, and you're asking us about the Heisman for next season. I mean, I'm going to defer to Greg for this one because I'm sure he's done enough homework and crunched the numbers to look far enough ahead. I'm literally trying to get through this year's playoff, Greg, and then I'll turn my focus to next year. Greg, take it away. Give us what you got.
That was a really nice filibuster, Joey. That was excellent. Well done. I think it's fairly obvious that this award has kind of pivoted just ever so slightly to the quarterback position, even though you've seen a receiver win, you've seen running backs win. This is a quarterback award. So one thing we've also noticed in the playoff era is that it's likely going to go to a team or a quarterback whose team is in the playoff conversation. So you can basically whittle it down to about 6 or 7 guys. Bryce Young will obviously be in the mix. C.J. Stroud will likely be in the mix. I wouldn't be surprised if Caleb Williams from Oklahoma gets into the mix potentially as well. And then who knows what's going to happen with teams like Georgia. Who knows what's going to happen with teams perhaps on the West Coast. Maybe there's a West Coast presence, and maybe Lincoln Riley brings someone out to L.A. that surprises some folks with what he does at SC. So naturally, you can just eliminate just about everybody and whittle it down to about 130. Those are the quarterbacks starting in college football. And if you want to whittle it down to guys that are legit playoff contending teams, you can whittle it down to 7 or 8. But if I had to pick right now, my top 3 would likely be C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young, and then Caleb Williams of Oklahoma.
Now, you know what?
Good
That
answer.
was an answer. And I will say this, too. It was a good answer. You're being kind when you say it's pivoted ever so slightly. I think that's putting it mildly. But again,
a little bit
see.
tongue-in-cheek. Yeah, just a little tongue-in-cheek there.
Just a little bit. I figured. Sarcasm welcome. Listen, tomorrow's a big day. It is the lifeblood of college athletics. Also a very big day for these young high school athletes who will make their decision. It's National Signing Day. And if the recruiting period ended today, Alabama would have their 8th #1 recruiting class. Luckily for the rest of the NCAA, it doesn't. National Signing Day, though, set for tomorrow, December 15th, and it's certainly a big day in the lives of a lot of young athletes. Take a look at this. This would be quarterback Walker Howard. He put up his commitment to LSU, and I mean, is this a no? This is Brian Kelly's dance moves after locking in the #1 dual threat QB in the 2022 class. Listen, I don't know if I would do that if I were Brian Kelly, but I guess he's got a lot to celebrate. Guys, you've both been through this. Greg, any memories or what were your feelings on the eve or the day of where you made your commitment?
I was excited. I was excited about the opportunity. I do think the world's changed a little bit. I didn't care whether or not my coach appeared to be cool. And I committed to Mike Leach and then Mike Shula, neither one of which are like the most charismatic guys in the world. So I don't necessarily, why everyone's beating up on Brian Kelly because he can't dance? Joey, why does that matter? He can't dance and he can't pronounce the word family. What's the big deal? I don't get it.
Do it.
Yeah.
Because we can make fun of
it doesn't matter, and I agree. Yeah. And you could tell the kid was like, what are we doing here? The kid didn't even participate.
Yeah, no.
But what I would really like to know nowadays, when we look at these classes, I would love to go back and see how many of those kids actually played for the school. Now that this transfer portal thing is happening, we talked about Quinn Ewers earlier. He was a highly ranked quarterback coming in and never played a snap. It'd be interesting to see these top classes, how many guys actually play.
Well, it's a game changer, no question. And the over-under